You good, Kip? Good evening, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to our Tuesday, October 3rd, 2023 Clay County Planning and Zoning meeting. We have a few housekeeping rules, please. Tonight we will hear two cases. We will begin with a report from the Planning and Zoning staff that will summarize each case prior to any discussion the board members may have. We will then ask the applicant to step up to the podium to ask or answer any questions and present support of their application. We ask the applicant to begin by stating their name and address for the record as these meetings are recorded. We will then ask for any public participation that may support the case being heard, and then anyone that may oppose the case being heard. Again, asking any participant to begin by stating their name and address. And please remember the topic of discussion needs to remain pertinent to the case being heard. The purpose of the Planning and Zoning Board is to hear the cases and make recommendations to the Clay County Commission. The Commission will review and decide the cases heard tonight on October 19th, 2023 at 6 p.m. in this room. Could we begin tonight with a roll call of attendance?
Yes, Chairman. Terry Griffin.
Present.
David Rodas.
Present.
Mike Brinkley.
Present.
Brad Scarlett. Jerry Nolte.
Here.
Mark Beggs. Randall Morris.
Present.
And Chairman Tom Decker.
Present. Could we have a motion to approve the minutes of our September 5th meeting as presented?
Move to approve.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Could we have a roll call vote?
David Rodas.
Yes.
Randall Morris.
Yes.
Terry Griffin.
Yes.
Mike Brinkley.
Yes.
Jerry Nolte.
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
The first case we will hear tonight is case number October 23-147RZ/CUP. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman, I'd like to add this staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
All right, so this is the proposed rezoning and conditional use permit for a property located at 8407 State Route 92. Currently, the property sits at roughly 5.5 acres. It's unplatted and currently zoned C2 or community commercial. This is the property that's the old Ectonville gas station there off 92, if you're familiar with that. The applicant is proposing to rezone the property to C3 or community services. The applicant plans to have a construction storage, which staff has classified as construction sales and services in the Land Development Code, and that is permitted by right in the C3 zoning, along with self-storage, which will be another use for this proposal that is also permitted by right under C3 zoning. And then the need for the conditional use permit is to allow for recreational equipment and vehicle storage. In the Land Development Code, it requires a conditional use permit for C3 zoning. So this facility will include 2 enclosed buildings, and I'll kind of go over in the next slide kind of the locations of these buildings and kind of what their site plan looks like. Includes 2 enclosed buildings that will accommodate boats and RVs. And one of the existing buildings will be converted into construction storage, and they plan on updating the existing storage buildings as well. And there will also be approximately 25 outdoor parking spots for the recreational vehicles. So these are some of the pictures you can kind of see. This is what what it currently looks like. You can see that gas station along with the self-storage units in that bait shop. It's in pretty rough shape. So the plan here is to update these buildings, demolish them, and reuse some of the existing buildings as well. This is kind of a goal for what they're looking at wanting to do there. It includes your standard keypad to unlock the gate and up to standard storage units. This is a site plan. There in the red is going to be the existing buildings. Those 2 long ones on the left there are your self-storage, and then that the one towards the east there is going to be your where that construction storage would end up being put and where the convenience store is. The yellow indicated there is going to be where the new proposed buildings are going to come into play. This is the surrounding area. You can see 92. Let's see if I can do. You see 92 running across here with E Highway going north and south. We have WHB over here, just kind of give you a general idea where this area is. This proposal falls under the Urban Services Tier, the 2008 Comprehensive Plan. The conditional use approval criteria is on your screen. This is the criteria we go over with any of our conditional use permits. And also the rezoning criteria is not on the screen, but it is attached to the staff report. It's the same rezoning criteria we go over with any of our rezoning cases. Staff has not received any opposition leading up to the planning and zoning meeting. I don't believe we received any calls. This case is published in the newspaper. We posted a sign on site, sent certified letters within 1,000 feet. In this case, is a total of 21. We have not received any objections from outside agencies, and staff is recommending approval with 12 conditions, including some of the following, which deals with issuing the conditional use permit for 15 years, and that outdoor storage shall be enclosed within an 8-foot fence. Staff would be happy to answer any questions the commissioners might have, and the applicants are present.
All right, thank you, Shane.
And Chairman, do you mind if I just add a couple thoughts as well?
Sure.
So just want to make sure, so it's currently zone C2, so the county has 3 levels of commercial zoning, C1, C2, and C3. C1 has the fewest allowed uses, going all the way up to C3, which has the most allowed uses. So just understand, part of that staff report that we sent included the use table. So if you look at that use table, go over to C3, if it has a P under that use, that means it's permitted by right. If it has a C, a conditional use permit is required, or if it's blank, that means that use is not allowed. So this, going from C2 to C3 would open it up to additional uses. So I just want the commission to be aware of that, because it could change uses in the future. Also, we were asked a question about if 92 Highway was expanded, if this would affect in that expansion in the future. MoDOT did give us some initial comments that they didn't have any objection and that the entrances were approved. However, we circled back to MoDOT, haven't heard back yet. I would expect we'll hear back before, if you decide to vote tonight, before we go to county commission. So if that is an issue, we could address that at county commission. And then, go ahead.
Are you implying an additional turn lane, or if MoDOT so decides, or?
Well, not for this proposed development, but if 92 is widened in the future, just in general, we want to make sure that nothing that we're approving tonight would interfere with that
All right.
process. And then the last thing I would like to mention is that there's very few areas of the county where commercial zoning is really a good idea. This is one of them. It's located in the highway corridor tier along 92 Highway with the current comp plan that has been indicated as a possible commercial zone. So staff thinks this request is consistent with that part of the comprehensive plan. And then, as Shane said, we'd be happy to answer any questions that you have.
All right, thank you, Kip. Do any of the board members have questions for staff regarding the case being heard?
I just want to expand a little bit on what Mr. Jones had to say. Jerry Nolte for the audio recording. Yeah, the county is pursuing some efforts to get funding for a widening of 92. It's something we've been wanting to do for a very long time. And we want to make sure that we don't put something in that would inhibit that plan, because expansion of 92 is I think a pretty vital part of the expansion of the county. So just to kind of expand a little bit on that. Thank you.
All right, thank you, Jerry. Do any of the other board members have questions for staff? All right, thank you, Shane. If the applicant or applicant's representative step up to the podium, please? State your name and address.
That's fine. If you can go back to the building.
Sure.
That'd be the best one. The new one. My name's Adam Tholen, 7712 Northwest Scenic Drive, Weatherby Lake, Missouri, 64152. One thing about on the current highway plan, if they're wanting to widen it, our new proposal, we kept the new building in line with the existing building. If you look right there on the front, on the top yellow one, that building, we kept it in line with the other two in case they did widen it. And we'd still have a lane that could drive down the side, or we would have to change the middle if we lost that front piece, where the distance between that first yellow building and the red one on the right there, we could change that and we could drive down if we had to later. And that's the reason we held that back, because we have an additional 30-some feet between there and the actual right-of-way, so.
Okay. So the two red buildings on the left are the existing.
Yes, sir.
And the yellow building in top right, it's the north face of the new building that you're holding consistent with the north face of the two existing buildings.
Yes, sir.
Yeah, and that's, even if the MoDOT expands the right of way, you still have an additional 30 feet of leeway to potentially sign over to MoDOT or?
And Chairman, I can add, there's 30 feet of right-of-way that MoDOT has, and then there's an additional 30 feet to that building. So there's 60 feet from the center line of 92 to the buildings.
To the face of the buildings?
Yes, sir.
60 lineal feet?
Yeah, 30 feet right-of-way and then an additional 30 feet back.
Yeah.
And our current drive lane would be that front 30 feet coming down along the side of that yellow building and then turning in between the red building and the first yellow building and coming towards the back. That was and that's where our fence would be on the 30-foot. We're doing a black fence across the front, and we had requested that we do a 6-foot fence. I know you guys asked for 8 foot. It's just that that bank is about 3 to 4 foot higher. Some areas it's 5 foot higher. So if we put an 8-foot fence on there, we're going to be 13 feet from the drive lane to the top of the fence. And we're just thinking for looks across the front, if it was 6 foot.
Yeah.
The one coming down this east side, the actual parking lot or the grade is about 3 to 4 feet lower than the fence at the top of the fence. The west side is agricultural. It's a farm ground. He's got some green space between there and across the back also. We're closer to level on those. It kind of falls off actually from our fence down. With our fencing contractor and stuff, we found in the past, they don't climb the fences. They're just cutting holes in them now, and all of our repairs have been from people just cutting holes in the fence. So we found that the height doesn't help us. It's the way we attach it at the bottom and the kind of fence.
So the zoning calls for an 8-foot tall fence around the entire perimeter, and the applicant's requesting a 6-foot fence around the entire perimeter?
Yes, so since the LDC requires the 8-foot tall fence, we put that as a condition. You could choose to change that condition or remove that condition.
I could see looks like the fence along the north side, it's going to be that wrought iron for the entire distance, or just at the gate?
It's a black chain link fence
Oh.
across the front with a gate.
Yeah.
It'll have there'll be a black gate, a slide gate that's on the front there
Okay.
also. It'll have a 3-wire on the top of it, so it's technically 7 feet, but it'll have 3 wires on the top. We can leave it off the front for looks, as far as and on the buildings, another thing we were asking for is in between the new proposed buildings that we keep that a larger aggregate instead of gravel. We do have a proposed detention in the back but it just, on the existing buildings that are there now, they have asphalt between them, but it's all torn up. We're gonna remove that and go back with a hard surface between there and put an apron around the building. But we just found that with the way those buildings stretch out, it's just going with the larger aggregate, it's for dust control.
Yeah, I think we've accepted, a 2-inch clean driving or parking surface in the past.
Yeah.
Main thing is dust control, and I don't see an issue with what you're talking about.
We try to keep the speed down, so that's, it,
I don't think that's an issue.
we did put 90 feet between the two buildings. We have 82 in between the top two buildings. Those are 30-foot units and 40-foot units, so you don't need quite as much. But in these larger units in the back, we put 90 feet between the second yellow building and the third yellow building on the bottom. And that's to get the larger units in there, the trucks. And those units are 50-footers and 45-footers. The 45-footers are behind the first red building there on the right. And we were gonna do a hard surface in front of that red building when you pull off 92, all of that area will be concrete or asphalt in the front where the existing gas station is now. That's all being removed and that grade's being cut down.
So
We ju-
are those above ground fuel tanks or are they underground fuel tanks?
They're above ground. They were cleaned out yesterday and today they've been working on them both days. We're gonna remove all the tanks and we've already had the soils tested on our phase 1, and then we went back and had additional testing done. And all of that is decommissioned already. So we've been cleaning these out. If you drove by there, it looks like a tornado went off. We're trying to get everything out of all the units and get it ready to have the gas station torn down and removed.
I got a question. On your east, west, and south boundaries, are you gonna leave there's a good natural tree boundary. Are you gonna leave that tree boundary and put the fence on the inside of that, or?
We did. We talked to Brandy on the east side there. She lives in that first house there. And most of the trees are on her property, so we're gonna clean to the fence row, and we're doing about 2.5, 3 feet on the other side just so we can maintain the fence. And then on the farmer on the back, on both sides, we're gonna do the same. And we asked to get 2 to 3 feet on the side so we can keep it cleaned up.
Yeah.
But most of those trees that are on that right, on the east side belong to Brandy, so those will be left.
They're not on your,
Those aren't on our property.
I got you.
But there is quite a bit of trees and stuff in the back that we have to remove, but as far as when it gets to the fence line, the existing fence right now is about 3 feet on our property in certain areas, and then it crosses periodically down through there, so.
I just know that there was a nice natural tree boundary, to keep away from the neighbors,
Yeah.
that's.
We just want something we can clean the other side, and it just by hand, we wouldn't have to drive a vehicle or anything on it, so.
Okay.
We do have to raise this bottom west corner. We've talked to the farmer there, but we're gonna do our own detention there, and we will have to we'll have to fill that bottom west corner up and raise that, because it does drop off quite a bit. It's a natural detention now, but it just runs into the pond.
All right. And Mr. Thelen, do you understand the conditions that the staff is wanting to attach? There's 11 items on there.
Yes, sir.
And are you good with all of these items?
Yeah, we are. It was just the ones on the fence and
The fence,
and the
yeah.
gravel.
Yeah. I don't really, so you're proposing a 6-foot chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire
Yes, sir.
across the top. Yeah. Yeah, I'm fine with that unless the other board members want to stick with the LDC and the 8-foot fence. I don't have a preference. I think fence just keeps an honest man honest, and if they're cutting holes in lieu of climbing, it doesn't matter how tall the fence is.
Well, our new, so on the lighting, we're gonna have Dustin on lights in certain areas at all times. And then we'll have a code system that they'll type in, and we have a software company that runs that for us. And then we'll know who comes on and off the property and what time. And then we'll show, it'll track them. And so as they drive through there, more lights will come on. So those lights won't be on all the time. And then we'll have cameras on the whole property. I mean, it's roughly 5 acres, and we're gonna have, the whole thing will be with cameras on it, so.
Then the photos in your business plan, are these like artist rendition or photo cropped, or are these photos of other facilities that you presently have?
Okay. Yeah, that's Smithville. Smithville Storage is the one right there on the top left. And then the top right, the bottom one is in Trimble. And then the top right one is just a Photoshop of a type of building.
Do you have interest in those other facilities, or you're just,
They've been bought up by a national outfit.
Oh, yeah.
So they've all been,
yeah,
it's a family-owned outfit out of Texas that owns them all. And it's, we've spoke to them and talked to them, but we live in Kansas City, so that's our idea is to stay here. And
all right.
we just saw an opportunity to hear something that was dilapidated and run down and needed repairs. So.
Well, I know I don't drive by there real regularly, maybe once or twice a month, but I know that's been a real eyesore for many, many years.
Yeah.
And I always thought there was a lot of potential there, and I'm glad to see someone's taking the initiative to clean it up and become an asset to the county and the community.
And I think eliminating the gas station and going to the RV and boat storage will decrease the car count there
Absolutely.
tremendously. So on a national average, they say 5 to 10 users a day, and that's for self-storage and RV. So it won't be a high traffic area. Where now with the gas station's pretty rough though. So
Yeah.
it was,
Yeah.
but.
Well, do any of the board members have questions for the applicant? Do we want any input or feedback on the 8-foot fence and reduce ultimately have 6-foot chain link and 3-strand barbed wire? It's going to put it at 7 feet.
Do you want the 3 strands of barbed wire across the front? Is that? On the north side, when we do the black fence, I can do it either way.
To me, that's a little tacky. I can see it on the east, west, and south, but that's just me. I can't speak for the entire board or for staff.
We're actually returning, the black fence comes back to that first, the red building on her side. We're actually bringing the black fence back to that building just for cosmetic purposes, so.
Yeah.
And then we're gonna return it back on the west side also, just a little bit so it looks finished and doesn't go straight to gray on the sides, so.
Kip, is it the fence height and the barbed wire across the front, is that something we need to discuss among the board members and take a vote on, or is that something that staff and the applicant can work out themselves?
So the condition says basically all recreational vehicle storage shall be enclosed within an 8-foot fence with locking gate. Obviously, they're gonna have the locking gate. I would want, after you hear all the discussion, if somebody wants to make a motion to approve with changing that condition to 6-foot tall fence,
All right.
then staff and the applicant can work out the barbed wire issue. I just need to know what height fence you're gonna require.
All right, and that language could be added to the motion.
Unless Andy has an issue with that.
I would suggest letting public comment before you do any motions to change any conditions.
Yeah, okay. All right, with no discussion or questions from the board, we'll open it up
Thank
to
you.
the public. You bet. Is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment that supports the application being heard? Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Sean Cloud.
Can you
I
get your address, please, Sean?
Yes, sir. It's at 8621 Northeast 151st Street, Liberty, Missouri 64068.
Yep, thank you.
So I need a little bit of clarification, if that's okay. Regarding the trees, it sounds like we're clear on the east side, that those are basically going to be staying. The south and the west sides are also heavily treed. And it sounds like, I'm just trying to make sure I understand how much clearing is going to take place back there.
Well, I think the applicants addressed that they would clear about up to their property line an additional 2 to 3 feet, as most of this brush or timbers on the adjoining property owners, and they would just clear enough room to be able to maintain the fence and keep it clean and do it by hand around the outside perimeter. So I would be in favor of leaving as much of the brush and trees as possible just for a natural landscaping.
Yes, sir. Yes, sir. That's correct. Thank you. And then the other thing I wanted clarification on was the lighting. It sounded like, obviously they'll be adding lighting.
Yeah.
And it sounds like that lighting in the evening will be off if there's no motion. Did I understand that correctly?
That's what I understood, and after our public participation, we could ask the applicant to step back up and clarify the extent of brush removal, and to clarify, I was under the impression that the outdoor lighting would be off unless it operates by motion sensors.
Correct. Okay.
So-
Yeah, the lighting would definitely have a big impact on the surrounding area. So that's why I'm very interested in that.
All right.
Once I understand the lighting better, I think I'll know where I stand in terms of whether I support or don't support.
All right?
But I definitely appreciate the fact that it's going to get cleaned up because it's definitely been a mess. So we're definitely glad about that.
Do you live adjacent or in the proximity
I'm on the
of this?
first street there on 151st Street in that cul-de-sac.
Is that to the north?
So we've spoken about Brandy's property. I'm on the same street as Brandy, just on the
Okay.
opposite side of the street.
Okay, very well.
And then one other thing that was mentioned, and I should bring this up, is future use. Is there an intended future use at this point, or is that just hypothetical?
Well, I think could speak that if the use changes, it would be an application for a new conditional use permit. I
Okay.
might let Kip address that.
Yeah, so their proposed use is storage, RV storage, and the contractor storage. However, if it gets rezoned to C3, depending on what that use is, we have to go to that use table, and it could be either permitted by right, which means they can do it without a public meeting, or if it has, as Mr. Decker said, if in that use table there's a C, it would require a conditional use permit. So it depends, 25 years from now, if somebody wants to turn it back into a gas station, the county officials would have to look at the current code, see if that's allowed in C3 zoning. If it is, they'd be allowed to do it. If it requires a conditional use permit, they'd have to come and do the process that we're doing now.
Okay. Okay, so at this point, there's not any intended future use?
No, the use tonight, or the use that they're proposing is the storage, the RV storage, and the construction
Okay.
company storage.
Okay. Okay, that's all of my questions.
All right, thank you, sir. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment that supports the application being heard? With none, is there? All right,
Debbie Schubert, 8603 Northeast 151st Street.
yep.
We're at the end of the cul-de-sac as well on the south side. Is there any plan at all for, would they be coming through the cul-de-sac or extending 151st Street for access to the property? No, okay. And then there won't be anybody on site there. It would just, people would have to have their codes to punch in to get into the facility? Is that right?
And can you direct your comments to the board and then he
Oh,
can?
I'm sorry.
Yeah, I heed your questions, and we'll have the applicant come back up to clarify the questions from the gentleman before you and the questions that you have.
Okay, and then if it's recreational and commercial, is that like, or construction, would that be semis in there? And will everything be behind the fence, not outside the, even if they had property outside that gated area, nothing will be parked along the outside?
I'm under the impression that the fence will pretty well be placed on the property line, and all activity and storage would take place within the confines of the fence, which would be cosmetically shielded by the trees and brush. But
Yeah.
we can confirm that with the applicant.
Okay. And did I understand it right that the gas tanks or storage tanks for gas have already been removed?
It appears that that's underway as we speak.
Okay,
And I know that the DNR have done some fuel tank remedial work in the past, and the Department of Natural Resources is very picky about any contamination of the soil. And it sounds like the applicant's complying with the DNR, and the tanks are being cleaned and removed as of this moment.
and we are glad that area is getting cleaned up because it has been a problem for a long
Yeah.
time. And
Yeah.
it's scary.
Yeah, I agree.
Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there anyone else in the audience that would like to comment that supports the case being heard? With none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment that opposes the case being heard? With none, we might ask Adam to come, Mr. Tholen, if you want to come back up and address the questions that came up in the public participation.
Can we pull that picture back up?
Which one?
This
That
one, yeah. So, on the parking, so the recreational is for boats, for RVs and boats. Some of the new RVs come, they'll have like motor coaches hooked to them, semis that pull the new coaches. So I don't want to say there won't be any semis, but they would be parked inside in the garages. That's what it's for. With this third building, it really doesn't leave much to be parked outside. Everything will be covered inside. We're finding that the outside storage, these cost so much that they want to put them inside. So the only thing that's not fenced is that top red building. So the fence actually goes up on the side of that building, that red building, over to the east property, and then the fence comes along the left side up to the yellow building, and then there's a gate right there at that yellow building on the north side there, and that's where you come down that side. That front building is being converted into 5 units, and those are those construction units, and it's just to keep those guys, those are the ones where they come like daily to it or something, but they are not allowed to store stuff out in front of it. It has to be stored inside the unit, but those units are 20 by 60, and it gives them, there's a 14-foot door, and there's a man door next to it. So they're not allowed to store stuff outside, but it is to be more convenient in and out. But those particular 5 units will not be in a fenced area. All of the other units will be fenced.
Okay.
The lighting, when I talk the dusk to dawn light, I'm talking like, let's say in the middle of those 2 red buildings on the left, we would have one light, like right in the middle, a small light that just puts off minimal amount of light, and maybe one in between these two yellow ones on the bottom and in the top. So I'm talking like 3 or 4 lights, very small, not floodlights or anything, just something that it doesn't look completely black. Now, when they come down the road, it'll turn on a light, but when they make that turn, it would turn on another light, just so they have drive area and
To come in to access through the main gate?
through the main gate. They would, as soon as they come through that main gate, a light would turn on. I don't want to turn on the whole place just for one person to come
Yeah.
in, but as they drive, let's say they come down to their self-storage and they turn down that self-storage, a light would come on if they pulled in 30 feet or 40 feet, but it wouldn't light up the whole thing. It would only, but now if they drove down further, it would light up as they left, but then do a timer on it of, 10, 15 minutes.
Okay.
And then the trees, so right now, we've removed all the stuff behind that red building on the east side. And really, the brush, like, majority of those trees are on, like, there's like asphalt millings that are up to the edge. And like, we've mowed into certain areas on that side. And most of the trees are on her side. On this back fence line, the guy, he farms he's probably 10 or 15 feet from where we've mowed. We mowed down that back path to have the survey done when to get areas to where we could have the stakes in there. There's a septic pond there. H&H is removing the sewage out of the septic tanks tomorrow. And so we can decommission those with the health department and remove those. The tanks, the 2 upright horizontal or vertical tanks, those have been washed and they're emptied. The 8,000 gallon horizontal diesel tank has been emptied and washed once, but they're coming back tomorrow to do another wash on it. The 8,000 gallon tank is being repurposed to the Lake of the Ozarks. And then the 2 8,000 gallon vertical tanks, we're trying to sell those right now.
Yeah.
But the goal is to have everything removed. We're doing the phase 2 on the gas station right now for asbestos before demolition on it. We kind of wanted to wait and see how this went before we demoed anything.
Yeah.
Just to make sure that if we had to put back the gas station, that was so. But that's the proper process to get that to demo that. If you can see the highlighted box of the canopy that's on there now, that's the one with the hash marks in it is the gas station, and then the one on the left is the canopy itself.
Okay.
So the goal is to remove the canopy, the gas station, the old bait shack on the side there, and was that
Then-
everything?
Was there I think the woman inquired about if there's going to be any ingress or egress
Oh,
coming in off of 156th Street or the,
so
to-
we're
off to the east.
currently, the east side is about 3 feet below the height of where the fence is now of like her drive or of her property on the east side. So we have no intentions on there ever being any access into the back or anything. The back of that, on the back side of this building would be smaller units because it only has 50 feet there. So the ideal thing is to have the larger units on the north side of that building and have smaller ones on the back.
so there's no plans to access for ingress, egress, other than the main gate that comes in
Main
off of
gate
92
at the front.
Highway?
That's it.
Okay. And then to confirm the brush fence question, on the west side, the west property line, is there brush there that's going to be left in place just other than the 2 or 3 feet to maintain the fence?
Yeah, on the west side, if you go by there now, I've already removed, down that west side, I've already removed about 20 feet of it just so we could clean out those units because it was completely grown
Yeah.
up to the building. So We've got a couple stakes along there that we found a fire hydrant in that top left corner. So that is the property line and it comes straight down the side and there's a couple big trees that we're gonna remove that are right in the fence row, but our goal is to, there's a bunch of trash that has kind of a little bit of a fall off to it. We're gonna pull all that trash out that's down in the farmer's stuff, so our goal is to have that side cleaned up, but there is quite a bit of trash removal that we're doing. And we're in the process of doing all that now, so.
So when you're done doing your deed, will there be any brush left on the adjacent property along the west line?
There will be, if you look, see where the writing is towards, if you come down a little bit south down, see where the writing just on the left side of the yellow line is?
Yeah.
I don't know what it says there.
Yeah.
That bottom quarter of that building, I don't know, there's a lot of debris that's in the woods there that we're gonna pull out.
Okay.
As we've been finding it, we've been pulling it out and putting it in a pile, so.
Okay.
All
right. Do any of the board members have any questions for the applicant?
And one thing on our lighting, the lights that come on, I mean, it's not gonna be a stadium. I mean, we're truly concentrating on down lighting just for the lanes that are just make it adequate for people to park and section it off to where we have a lot more motions to where only if it's their section they would come on instead of the whole area.
All right.
So, and there will not be a person working there, but there will be somebody that can respond at the gate. So if they need to, they can call somebody from the gate. That's part of the software that runs that stuff for us.
Okay. All right, very well. We might.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there anyone else in the audience that wants to, I'd like to think we've answered everyone's questions and with no further public participation, then we're going to close public participation. Do any board members have questions for staff?
And Chairman, I will just remind you, the conditions go with the conditional use permit. So if the board wants to change that commission or that condition, it will go when you do their second vote with the CUP.
Yeah, the first vote's for rezoning to C3, second vote's conditional use permit, and then if we want to change the language on the fence, we can make that part of the Exhibit A attachments.
Yes, sir.
Yep. Well, I think this is a good thing for the surrounding residents or property owners. It's been an eyesore for many, many years. I think it'd be a good thing for the county. It's a pre-existing facility that has probably not generated much tax revenue or tax base for the county, and hopefully we can turn that around, and I'm glad to see it being cleaned up, and it appears that Mr. Thillen's going to do it right. So you heard Kip. We've got a two-step voting process. Number one is to approve the C3 rezoning, and then number two would be to approve the 15-year conditional use permit with the conditions attached in Exhibit A. So I would call for a motion to approve the rezoning of the 8407 State Route 92 LLC from Community Commercial C2 to Community Services C3.
Move to approve.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very well. Do we have a roll call vote?
David Rotis,
Yes.
Jerry Nolte,
Yes.
Terry Griffin,
Yes.
Mike Brinkley,
Yes.
Randall Morris,
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Well, I think we can move into the voting on the 15-year conditional use permit. We currently have 11 items in Exhibit A that would become attached to the conditional use permit. Item number 11, the current land development code requires an 8-foot fence with locking gate around the entire perimeter. The applicant's asking for a variance to erect a 6-foot chain link fence with 3 strands of barbed wire around the top, which would basically net about a 7-foot height, which I'm good with. And then leave the barbed wire off the north side of the property, which would be visible from the highway, which I'm good with. And so I'm proposing to amend the verbiage to item 11 of the Exhibit A to reduce the chain link fence height to 6 foot with a 3-strand barbed wire netting about a 7-foot height, and to delete the barbed wire and have a 6-foot fence only on the north side of the property. If we could have a motion to approve with conditions and condition number 11 amended.
So the first thing that we would have historically do is have a motion to amend whatever the condition number is that would state you move to amend it by changing whatever language you want to change, and then the second, and then vote on that, and then you can vote on the CUP itself.
Okay? So I'll recall my motion.
And my preference would be, if you're gonna go that route, you just change it from 8 to 6, leave out the barbed wire, because that's not a requirement, unless the board really wants to make sure the barbed wire's installed, but that's not a requirement of the land development code.
All the rest of them we've had, it's always been the 8-foot, so the problem.
Though for making exceptions. Yeah.
I know up at
Paradise.
Paradise.
Yeah.
He had to do that.
Well, we'll just take a vote on it. We'll call for a motion to amend the height of the fence from the LDC required 8 foot to the applicant's request to 6 foot. And have a motion to approve.
Motion to amend.
Motion to amend. My bad.
So moved.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Would have a roll call vote?
Randall Morris,
Yes.
Jerry Nolte,
Yes.
Terry Griffin,
Yes.
David Rotis,
Yes.
Mike Brinkley,
Yes.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Now you can move into a motion on the CUP with conditions as amended.
Okay. All right. As Andy stated, we'll call for a motion for an approval of the 15-year conditional use permit with items attached under Exhibit A, including the amended height of the fence, which is item 11.
Move to approve conditions.
Very well. Do we have a second?
Second.
Very well. Roll call vote.
David Rotis,
Yes.
Randall Morris,
Yes.
Terry Griffin,
Yes.
Mike Brinkley,
Yes.
Jerry Nolte,
Yes.
and Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
Right. Adam, you guys are welcome to stay, or you can move on, whatever you want to do. So. The second case we'll hear this evening is case number February 23-114A. And could we have a staff report, please?
Yes, Chairman, would like to add the staff report as part of the official record.
So be it.
So we discussed this last month. This is just basically updating the Planning and Zoning Commission's bylaws. Included in your staff report, the changes were highlighted. Really, it's to align the bylaws with the new LDC amendments, updating it to match the new state statutes. And really, the biggest change that probably be the only change that you'll notice is the time change for this meeting will be from 6:30 to 6, if you approve it that way. Last month, you'll remember that we held this over a month because Ms. Griffin had a good point about under general rules, number 4, it says commissioners shall not discuss a pending agenda item with the public at other than a public meeting scheduled by the Planning and Zoning Commission. We worked with county counselor to add the following sentence, which states, however, this does not prevent any commission member who is also a county official or employee from carrying out their duties and obligations required in said capacity. So we think that protects Ms. Griffin and the county commissioner that will be on the board from here on out. Other than that, I think they're just minor changes that kind of update those bylaws. Staff is recommending approval, and we would be happy to answer any questions you have.
Thank you, Kip. I don't have any questions for staff. If any of the board members have questions, recommendations? With no discussion, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment on the case being heard, that supports the case being heard? With none, is there anyone in the audience that would like to comment that opposes the case being heard? With no, we would close the public participation. With no further discussion, I would call for a motion to approve the updated version of the Planning and Zoning Commission bylaws as presented.
Move to approve.
Very well, can we have a second?
Second.
Very well, can we have a roll call vote?
David Rotis,
Yes.
Jerry Nolte,
Yes.
Terry Griffin,
Yes.
Mike Brinkley,
Yes.
Randall Morris,
Yes.
Chairman Tom Decker.
Yes.
Motion carries.
We have, I think that was our last case for the evening. If staff has any comments, or Mr. Andy?
Yeah, just a couple comments. The county commission approved the land development code amendments as presented, so as you approve them. So actually that goes along with my next comment, which we are not going to have a planning and zoning commission meeting beginning in November. We had one application, but it fell under that administrative process that we created because it's just basically creating one lot. So I think that's a pleasant change. However, we will have a combined planning and zoning commission and county commission meeting. I think it's October 25th, which is a Wednesday, which is the kickoff for the comprehensive plan. So it'll be run by the consultant. It'll be an introduction to that comp plan update that we're doing. There'll be some information, some questions, so they're going to have an agenda. We'll get you more information as we get closer to that. Obviously, we want you all to attend if you can, but we understand if you can't. So we'll send out information when we get closer to that. And then to go along with those land development code amendments, the county commission wanted to send back to you and have you discuss whether we should extend the 1,000-foot mailing requirement. So currently we notify any property owner that's within 1,000 feet of a case. They want you to consider whether that should be more strict or more stringent, a larger number of folks that we notify. So that'll be on our whenever our next meeting is, we'll discuss that. So just start thinking about that. And I think that's all I have.
Is the joint county commission and P&Z commission meeting, is that part of the Wasn't there like a public forum in Gladstone scheduled later this month, or?
So there's been, for the comp plan so far, they've been at several pop-up events, which are like the fall festivals. They were at Liberty Fall Festival, Jesse James Festival, Glad Fest, to just get input from the public. So we've had a booth at those. This is the kind of the introduction for both the Planning and Zoning Commission and County Commission. It will be a public meeting, so the public could attend. And then there's also going to be open public houses as we go through this process. We're sending out a mailer to every unincorporated property owner. There's a website that's set up. So there's going to be a bunch of different steps as we go throughout the process.
So the meeting you're talking about, October 25th, is going to be with the County Commission and the Planning and Zoning Commission, like in this room, or?
It'll be in this room. I don't have all the details yet, but it's going to be a less formal setup. Probably be at some tables, maybe some smaller group, kind of work session type deals, talking about land use and the vision of the county moving forward, items like that.
Okay. All right.
Kip, will that be at 6 o'clock?
6 o'clock, yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, that's good question. Meetings moving.
That was the question of the day,
Meetings after
let me tell
today will be at 6 PM.
6 PM from here on out. The agenda will reflect that from here on out,
Okay,
which aligns you with county commission, so hopefully it's less confusing for everybody.
okay.
But no meeting November 2nd or whenever it was, 7th, but we will have that joint Planning and Zoning County Commission meeting.
Okay.
That's it.
With
I'm done.
no further discussion, we'll adjourn the meeting.
Back to the field. Back to the field. See you later.
Kip, I want you to know what kind of sacrifices I make for this cause. Today is my 36th wedding anniversary, and look what I'm doing.
Well, your wife's probably glad you're here instead of hanging out with her.
That's why the married